Alright guys, welcome back to the shop. Last video we drug our little 5.3 out from this corner, tore it all down, pulled the pistons, crank, heads, everything off. We got it sitting on this bench right here, ready to be cleaned up. But before I get to any of that stuff, figured I'd go ahead and go over cleaning up the block. Now here's what I've got so far. I have gone ahead and cleaned up 7 of the 8 cylinders. As you can see, cylinder number 7 right here still needs to be cleaned up. I've gone ahead and cleaned up the top of the block there where the lifter valley would be. I've gone ahead and cleaned up the deck surface on this side of the block as well. And I've come up front too. I've also knocked 4 of the 5 cam bearings out. Now I know in the last video I mentioned we were reusing the main and the rod bearings. That's because these guys here actually, they only show minimal wear. I mean they've been used, but for the most part they are in really good shape. I also made a joke on the last video too. As long as I didn't look at the cam bearings, they weren't bad. Well, I made the mistake today of looking at the cam bearings. So, let me see, show you what they look like. Now here's cam bearing number 1. It doesn't look too bad. You see a little bit of discoloration right there. Go ahead and get into cam bearing number 2. You can see it shows a little bit more sign of wear. You can see too it's got 3 different colors there, so it's starting to wear. It's got a little bit more wear than the first one. Cam bearing number 3. Almost the same amount of wear, not as bad. And it has signs of oil coming up over the top there, which I think is okay. It's kind of normal because this is where it splits. And then we get into cam bearing number 4, which has significant amount of wear all the way around. So I decided to go ahead and just knock the cam bearings out. I have actually seen a lot of videos of these guys, doing budget builds like this and throwing a bunch of boost at it and come running into a problem because of the cam bearings. They're losing oil pressure. So, you know what? I figured, I seen that and I was like, I don't even want to deal with that point or that part. So, and I'm already this far into the engine. I went ahead and ordered up some new cam bearings. Now I left the number 5 bearing in because I want to show you guys the tool I used to get it out. This is one of these universal camshaft installation and removal tool. Show you guys how to use it real quick. Kind of a neat tool. I'll wait till the new cam bearings come in to show you how to install them, because these ones here will kind of damage the lip of new bearings because it splits into 4 pieces, and the edge of the tool kind of has a tendency of mashing the edge of a new bearing. So I won't worry about that part right now. But I'm gonna go ahead and give the camera to Seth. He's gonna do some recording for us. I'll do my best to kind of speed along through this process, but kind of show you what I did to clean up the deck surface here, clean up the cylinder walls. We'll get that cam bearing out and basically move on from there. So, ready to start recording, Seth?
Sure am.
All right, here you go. All right, so first thing I'm going to do is we're going to remove that cam bearing. Now here's this tool. It is a universal set. And these are the dies I use, which are like number 4. Now what you want to try to do is line up. Hold on a sec. Let me get this apart. It makes it easier for this tool because it is universal. We'll get this thing out of here real quick. Kind of cool and it doesn't want to move. There it goes. Whoops. But, all right, you see on this tool here, it's got 4 halves. 4 corners. What you want to do is line each one of those lines up to the new tool, or the part you're going to use for your cam bearings. Try to line all those up, because when you tighten it, it puts this little guy here and kind of expands it up against the bearing, and it's hard for it to do it correctly when the splits are in the middle. It doesn't want to expand correctly. So just kind of line these lines up with these lines here. Be good to go. Alright, come up right here. Make sure everything's loose. Go through the front. Run that guy all the way through to the back. Alright, come back to the back of the engine. Come back here. There. So we run that all the way through just like that. I've got a wrench right here. Go ahead and we'll tighten that up. Let's see. Make sure it's nice and snug. Now if you come up here, Seth, this tool comes with a little cone. That way it helps center it up. That way you're not trying to whack on it or hammer on it and it's crooked. So make sure that's nice and tight. Grab your hammer. Go to the back there, watch it as it comes out. There you go. It's right here, bud. So we went ahead and knocked that bearing out. And just use your wrench, release the tool, that way the bearing slides off, and then we can remove the tool from the block. But that's how this tool works. Really neat tool, works for a bunch of different size cam bearings. So go ahead and put this over here. Get that out of the way. Now like I said, when the new bearings come in, we'll go ahead and go over what happens if you use that tool to install them. Let me see. Maybe I can show you on this one by taking it out. There you go. I don't know if you can focus right on this edge right here. The universal tool has a tendency to kind of mushroom that edge a little bit, and it'll do that to your new bearings as well if you use that tool. But anyways, on to the next part. Now, come over here, Seth. Now you see that real quick. Now we'll get down in here. You can see how these cylinders look. See if I can get the focus. There we go. Pretty clean. Not too shabby for a junkyard engine. And then you come over here and you see this guy here. Looks like she's got some miles on it. Now you can see down at the bottom there, there's carbon buildup. That has it on both sides. And what I like to use to get rid of that carbon buildup and the gloss, the initial gloss, is I'll use one of these guys here. Call it the 3-stone hone. This particular one you can actually pick up from Harbor Freight. Now I only use this for cleanup. I do not finish my cylinder walls with this. This is kind of, it's a little aggressive. So I just use it for cleanup. As a matter of fact, go ahead and give the camera back to Seth. All right, so go ahead and pull that little guy out. I'll get the 3-stone in our drill. Go ahead and come on over here, Seth. Get some bunch of WD-40 in there. You gotta watch this. Go ahead and get the stones in there. You got it? You getting down in there? All right, very cool. Like I said, this is only for cleanup, initial cleanup. Don't keep it in one spot, and we're not trying to change the size of the cylinder. We're just trying to clean it up real quick. That should actually be good enough for a cleanup pass. Grab this rag here. Go ahead and get in here and wipe it out. All right. See that real quick. So you get down there, you see a lot of the carbon buildup is gone. We just got a little bit of staining for them when there was moisture in the cylinder, but all that will go away. So now that I've got that part cleaned up, go ahead and get rid of this guy. And we finish it off with our little ball hone here. This is like a 400 grit hone. It gives it a nice good cross hatch on the cylinders, and it works really well for MOLLE rings. They don't like to seal against coarse cylinder walls, so 400 grit I've learned works the best. Now this, you want to go fast, in and out real quick, because you want to try to get a nice good cross hatch. I'll show you here in a second. And you always want to try to end on an outward motion, not at the bottom, because if you stop at the bottom then you pull straight out. It doesn't really work out that well. So go ahead and wipe this cylinder out real quick, take a look at it. All right. Looks like it could use a little bit more cleanup. You get a little bit more in there. Add a WD-40. Clean, wipe that out. Oh yeah, so pretty good. Now this is just a quick cleanup. It's a junkyard engine. We're gonna throw it in my truck, throw a bunch of boost at it. Get that real quick. So as you can see now, the cross hatching, and if you remember, like all the discoloration and stuff in there, the carbon buildup on the sides down there, on both sides. It has a little bit in there still, but that's part of the metal. And really the only real way to get rid of all that is to take this block to a machine shop, have them bore it out once over, maybe two, depending on how bad it is. But I can reach my hand in there. I can't feel it. I can just barely see it. So like I said, it's a junkyard engine. We're having fun with it. We're learning as we go. I've always wanted to do an LS, and I figured, you know what? Why not? And if I grenade this thing, a couple $100 and a day at the junkyard, we could have ourselves another block. So, get another look at that real quick. So now we have all 8 of our cylinders. There, I'll wipe these ones out real quick. It's just from the hone flinging them around. There we go. So we have all 8 of our cylinders cleaned up. Pretty decent looking cross hatches. So our rings should seal pretty good against them. Now you can see this deck here, pretty clean. It's got a little spots there you can see, like from the gasket that was there, but all that stuff is like a stain, and it falls into the scratches or the marks from being decked from the factory. It's like I cannot feel that whatsoever. So, and really it's good enough to seal against, especially when you coat the heck out of the head gaskets with copper spray, which is what I'm going to do. So, but I'm going to show you how I got it to that point. Now I used to use a razor blade and then a foam block, like I'm going to show you here in a second. But I recently watched another YouTube video where I saw the guy using one of these carbide scrapers. This thing works really, really awesome. You do have to be careful because it will cut into the metal of the block. I was goofing off with it. Here, I'll show you over here. Just on like a piece of aluminum, you definitely do not want to use this thing on aluminum. You come over here, you can see all that right there. You can see the shiny marks. It will cut and destroy aluminum parts if you use this on aluminum, so just be extremely careful if you do. And it will catch edges of our block if you're not careful. So I like to use 2 fingers on the edge here when I'm using it. I'm going to give the camera back to Seth. That way he can kind of zoom in and show you guys what I'm doing. You ready?
Yep.
All right, come on over here, bud. So, look down here on the block. Okay, so come on over here where I've got still some of the old gasket material left. There, you see that? Now, what I'll do is I'm going to grab my scraper and show you here real quick the difference. One down here. So, see that's all that gunk and stuff right there? So here's my scraper. All right, it is taking some of the material off. Okay. Now, the razor blade would do much, much better than the scraper. But now we're going to go over the same area I just used that with this little guy here. You can see how much better it works. Now you want to be careful and you want to make sure you do hold it flat because it will catch this edge right here or any sharp edge. It will want to catch it if you're not holding it flat, and that is not good, especially around the cylinders. So I'm just using it to take away all that kind of gasket material that was on the head gasket or what the head gasket left behind. That way I don't have a whole lot to clean up here. So you can see that. See how much that stuff is taken off. And it's just discoloration. Like I cannot feel that anymore. I can feel this. And you can see the scraper's taking it off. And now I cannot. There we go. There. I can't feel that anymore. Once I can't feel it with my finger, then I'm not going to scrape anymore. There's no reason to. And it kind of eliminates the chance of me grabbing an edge and destroying the surface here. So you can see it'll take off some of the rust too. There. Now our block, our numbers that are stamped on the block are coming back. I don't know if the camera picks that up, but oh yeah. So just make sure you hold it flat. That way you don't risk cutting into the edges. And now that you've got all that gasket material that was left behind off, the one thing I've always done is I use, there we go, all gone. So, what I like to use is one of these guys. You can actually find this at Lowe's. This is a 180 grit, just a foam block. Use it to sand drywall. I like it because none of these things cut, none of the little abrasiveness comes off. None of the abrasiveness comes off. It doesn't shed any little granules or anything. So get a real good coat of WD-40. And what I like to do is kind of hold it long ways. And you go and just back and forth. So you can go back and forth this way. That helps clean. And then swirl. Basically rotate it up. That way it helps you concentrate and not try to stay in one spot for too long. So we're not trying to take anything off, we're just trying to clean it up. That, and then come back the other way. I'm just trying to give it a good clean surface for the new head gasket. Just rotate directions. Keep both hands on it and back and forth. So as long as you're constantly rotating your method, you're not going to take anything off. You're just helping clean and polish. All this stuff is there from the gasket. It's in the metal. And really, like I said, in order to get rid of any of that stuff, it has to go to a machine shop to be decked. So, but this is a budget build. We're going to throw this thing in my truck, throw a bunch of boost at it, and see how fast we can go. Now that we've done that, go ahead and take the rag, wipe it down real good, see what she looks like. Go ahead and wipe the cylinders out again. Get rid of that junk. There we go. Deck feels good. Definitely good enough to seal against. So I'm not worried about that. And like I said, especially after you coat the head gaskets with copper spray, you don't really have to worry about it. Another tool I use, go ahead and get this off, is I got one of these little guys here. It's a 7/8 made by the same company, just a little ball hone. This is for our lifter bores. Whoops. I've got all the other lifter bores cleaned up except for these last two here. Come on over here, Seth. I just got just like the cylinders, get in quick, end on the outward. And that is good enough. We're just trying to get rid of some of the carbon buildup, some of the dirt. Go ahead and spray it out real quick. I got this little bar here, paper towels. Push paper towels through. Oops. Let's see. Guess I tried to get too much at one time. There we go. Pull that through. Do it one more time to the next one. Now if you look up inside there real quick, you can see how clean our lifter bores are. And that's it. That's all I want to do. Just clean out some of that carbon. Give a nice clean surface for our new lifters. Now, one more thing. And really, it's a junkyard engine. I'm going to run it regardless. But if you're ever wondering about whether or not you have too much or too little piston to wall clearance, this guy here, you can get on Amazon or eBay, look for like a machinist feeler gauge. This is 3 thousandths. I don't know if you can see that. There you go. 3 thousandths. Basically, it's like 3 to 4 thousandths, 4 being the max. If you have closer to 4 thousandths, you are going to get piston slap. You want it closer to 3 or in between 3 and 4. Basically what I do is just, and this is a really cheap, fast way of doing it. This is not precise whatsoever, but throw your 3 thousandths in there, grab your piston, run it to the bottom, and just kind of pull on your feeler gauge. Now, if you got drag, that means you're good. You're still within the 3 thousandths. Make sure it's all the way down. Put the piston like in the center. Still got good drag. Bring it all the way to the top. Still got good drag. Now, that means that this cylinder, here, we'll go ahead and do it on the top too, just for giggles. So, oops, dang it. There we go. So, you got light amount of drag, but we still got drag. It's still holding it in there. Now that means that we are still somewhat within the 3 to 4 thousandths. I'm not exactly sure where. Drag, so it's not quite 4. It's a little more than 3. So it's a best guess type thing. But this will at least tell me that we are still somewhat within spec, regardless of the fact that we're going to run it anyways. And I've checked all of the pistons, all the cylinders. They all have the same amount of drag, so we're doing pretty good. But really the correct way to measure all that is to get a dial bore gauge, get in there, measure different spots of the cylinder, get a good micrometer to measure the diameter of the piston. That way it gives you a better visual or a better number of where everything sit. Like I said, that's just a really cheap, quick way of doing it. It's a lot like using plastic gauge to measure crank and rod journals. It's quick. It tells you if you're somewhat within spec or so. That's all that is. The dial indicator and all that stuff is a tool I plan on getting in the future, but for right now, that's what we're running. So it showed me we're within 3 and 4 thousandths. Closer to 4, you're going to get a little bit of piston slap when it's cold. Once everything warms up, it'll go away. But the way it felt, it kind of felt like we're not going to have very much or very minimal, if any. So I'm happy with that. Now that we've got all of our cylinders cleaned up, we got our decks cleaned up, cam bearings are knocked out. I got new rings coming, new cam bearings coming. I do have a bunch of parts sitting here, and as I start installing them in this block, I will be writing them up on the board. Now, as of right now, I'm going to go ahead and these things, or these 2 bottom ones here, I'm just going to go ahead and wipe that off. We're going to start from scratch. The engine, I paid $450 for it at our local Pull Your Part. That is the pretty much the biggest chunk of money so far. And the cool thing is it only cost me that much because I bought all the accessories with it. Came with the front mounting brackets, alternator, starter, water pump, everything. Now, I get this in the truck and I blow it up a few months later. If I go back to the junkyard and I just pick up a long block just this guy basically with heads, nothing else, it's barely over 200 bucks. So, which is another reason why I'm just gonna send it. So, but like I said, we're at a point now, I got to take this thing outside. I'm going to get it hosed down, get everything blown out, get it all cleaned up, get it washed up to where I got no more dirt and grease and grime, anything on the inside at least, so we can start putting this thing back together. We'll go ahead and then once I start installing new parts, we'll go ahead and add it up on the board there, keep track of all the money we spent till this engine is completely put together. So, but hope I didn't drag this out too long. Hope it made it as interesting as possible. Just kind of show you guys some of the things I've gone through. Now to remind you, I'm just a hobbyist. I do this stuff on the side for fun. I'm not a professional by any means. And this is my first LS platform. So, but the cylinder walls, cleaning the deck, and all that stuff is something I've done on other engines. This just happens to be my first LS platform. I've always wanted to do one, and I figured it'd be a whole lot of fun, so just keep that in mind. The guy, I believe it's Repurposed Performance is the guy, or the YouTube channel I seen this little guy on. I'll go ahead and put a link to his channel in the description. That way you guys go check him out too. So, but anyways, hope I made this interesting enough for you guys. Hope I didn't drag it out too long. So I'm going to get this outside, get it cleaned up, get it ready for some new parts. But I'm going to end this video right here. Thank you guys for watching. Hit that thumbs up for me if you can. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Leave a comment down below. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you, Seth, for filming.
Hi.
And I'll see you guys on the next one.